And welcome. We are here with a solo edition of Who's Your Caddy? I'm Adam Hallas, and I'm doing it by myself without Kelly in Phoenix. And she's currently having a procedure done, so we give her some goodwill and good thoughts. So cheers to you, Kelly, and to all the others there for I wouldn't say our last episode, as we are in the championship version of the PGA. So we're at the Tour Championship, and it's the end of the season. So we're going to do one little sip for Kelly in the end of the season in our last episode. So there we go. But let's get to it, shall we? All right. Welcome back. All right. On tonight, on Who's Your Caddy, we're going to be talking about the Tour Championship. Again, it is a no-cut event. There's a few caveats, and we'll talk about those a little bit. Before we get into it, how did we do last week? Well, last week, going into Saturday, I was double my money. $80 in, 160 out. And then Mr. U-turn, Chris Kirk, shot the bed. And I struggled from that point on to really make anything of last weekend. I still made some money. I was able to cash some stuff. I wouldn't say I made some money. But anyway, this week we're in the Tour Championship. We head to East Lake Golf Course in Atlanta, which means we're down to the best 30 remaining players for the PGA Tour. Now, there's some things you ought to know about how we're going to start off this event. So, depending on where you are in the FedExCup standings, means you get also a little jump start on the scoring. So that means Scotty Scheffler, who's number one, will start off the weekend with 10 under. So Thursday morning, he hits the first tee box, he'll be already 10 under. And second place, obviously, Victor Hovland with his wonderful work last weekend to take the BMW Championship. He's at 8 under, and Roy's 7 under. John Rahm starts the weekend at 6 under. Lucas Glover starts the weekend at 5 under. And then 4 under, we have a slew of players. So it's going to be Max Homa, Patrick Cantlay, Brian Harman, Wyndham Clark, Matt Fitzpatrick. And then 3 under, we have Tommy Fleetwood, Russell Henley, Keegan Bradley, Ricky Fowler, and Xander Schauffele. And 2 under, we have Tom Kim, Sanjay M, Tony Finau, Corey Connors, Siwoo Kim. And then 1 under, we have Taylor Moore, Nick Taylor, Adam Schenk, Colin Morikawa, Jason Day, and even starting the day as any other golfer, Sam Burns, Emiliano Grillo, Tyrell Hatton, Jordan Spieth, and Sepp Straka. So, with that in mind, there's some numbers to keep in play here. Now, some takeaways that a fellow Twitter X personality, I don't know what to call it anymore, but the Fantasy Crime brought up some pretty good numbers. Some takeaways from East Lake in the Tour Championship. Nobody from a starting position of -1 or even has ever finished the week inside the top 5. Every season, at least one player from the -2 starting position, tied for 16th, has ended up inside the top 5. The worst the leader, -10, has finished in 4 years was top 3, and that was in 2019. So you can imagine the ownership percentages for Scotty Scheffler. In the last 3 years, the leader, -10, has finished on top or within the shot of the eventual winner. Second place starter has only finished inside the top 5 once in the last 4 years. And then top 3 has included at least one player who started between -2 and -4 every single year. Some interesting results. But, when we kind of take a look at it and we start to take a look at how this field is shaking up and playing out, it kind of makes sense. And those numbers, thank you to the Fantasy Grind for providing those numbers, kind of gives us a clearer picture on where we should kind of put our focus at. That being said, who am I going to be taking for this go round? I mean, I don't know. Let's take a look at East Lake Golf Course. It's a par 70 golf course measuring around 7,300 yards with Bermuda grass greens. Designed by Donald Russ, and it is going to be slightly, we're going to be looking at some driveway, hitting fairway accuracy. Really, this course kind of plays either way when it tries to hit the fairways. The course overall, and what we'll be looking at is the two things. The shot percentages are going to be shots gained, are going to be approach and putting, and then we're going to be looking off the tee. Now, those that finish within the top 10 have been great ball strikers. So we're going to be looking at somebody that can really get off the tee box and really hit those irons. Par 5 scoring is going to be important here. As we look at the par 5s, there's going to be two par 5s that we really want to look at that have a 50% or better birdie percentage, and that's going to be hole number 6 and hole number 18. Both are relatively short compared to what we looked at last weekend with the 600-yard par 5s. This week we have 590, just cutting a little short, which is hole number 18 and 525 for hole number 6, which is a pretty short par 5. But very approachable holes that you could eagle. And then after that, we have a couple par 4s, 12 and 3, that I think are going to be very birdieable. They're under 400 yards, and the average, round under par is almost a stroke. So we will look at those holes to really be disc scoring holes. There's going to be holes that are going to give us some trouble here, and those are going to be hole number 1, hole number 14, and hole number 4. Those have almost a 25% bogey rate, and they are all par 4s, and they're all the longest par 4s on the course. So that being said, this course is very well balanced, but we're looking at more of approach, and again, putting. There's some undulating greens, wavy, that we're going to have to look at. So again, we're going to be looking at those that can at least putt, which is going to make a little bit difficult as we are looking to stack Scotty Scheffler. Scotty has not been doing well on the flat stick. If anything, we hope that he could putt with his driver to get anything going there on the greens. So who am I looking at for my pool? There's only 30 players out there. The ownership percentages are going to be super high. And so we're going to have to play the median on this, right? So obviously everybody and your mom's going to have their Scotty Scheffler. Me too. Outside, we have Rory, who I'm looking at as my, sprinkling in there as within my lineups. The problem with putting Scotty Scheffler and Rory in there is they're absorbently expensive. So Scotty Scheffler is $13,400, super expensive, and then you have Rory at $13,000, again, super expensive. So everybody's fitting them in, and then right now their ownership projection for Scotty is at 32%, and Rory's at 33% so far projected. So what does that mean? So it means people are forcing them into their lineups, and they're going to be moving further on down the I would say the pool and the cheaper players. I wouldn't say cheaper, more cost effective. So that means there might be some wiggle room or some play within that median range. So between the 10 to 8,000 range. And somebody that I'm looking at within that range is Max Homa and then Patrick Cantlay. I think those two, again, Max Homa looked like he was Max Homa of old last weekend. He could putt. He started doing the approach. Um, he wasn't great around the green, but overall he was gaining almost 3 strokes tee to green, gaining 3 strokes off the tee. His approach was pretty good. His putting was stellar, gaining 5 strokes, almost 6 strokes putting last weekend. So hopefully Max Homa's feeling the groove and getting it going. And then Patrick Cantlay as well. Patrick Cantlay has always been a great approacher, and it was no different last weekend as well. He almost gained 2 shots gained on approach. He's pretty good off the tee to green. He's that overall balanced person that we like to see. He kind of sucked putting last weekend. We hope that he's picks it up this week. So I'm looking at Patrick Cantlay. It's kind of like, and Max Homa is kind of like my 2 more expensive people outside of Scotty Scheffler and Rory McIlroy, only because they're so expensive, and they're sprinkled throughout my lineups, but they're not the focus of my lineups. I'm more between the 10,000 and the 8,000 range. As we move a little bit further on down, I have Brian Harman, Lucas Glover. I mean, what's not to love with Lucas Glover? Again, his last week, I think he just kind of relaxed a little bit and kind of took it easy. His putting wasn't exactly there. He lost some strokes there, but his approach is still fire. He gained 4 shots on approach, and it was 3 shots tee to green. I think he'll put his flat stick on display this week, and he will move on up there. The other person I'm looking at within that range is Brian Harman at 9,500. Again, at 19% ownership, that's, I think, going to be median. So he could be a fairly good ownership play there. Wonderful at putting last weekend. 7 shots gained putting. Approach, he barely gained anything in approach. He was not stellar off the tee. I watched the tournament. He was hitting out of the rough quite a bit, and that was some thick rough to get out. But overall, his flat stick helped him and got him 5th in the BMW Championship. So I think he'll do it again here. So if we go a little bit further down into those people, if you're looking to shove more Scotty Scheffler and Rory McIlroy into your lineups, at 6,900, I'm looking at Tyrell Hatton. His driving accuracy is 60%, driving distance 306 yards, greens and regulation 66%. He did wonderful putting. Not to great anything else. In fact, I think he barely just made it into this championship. He lost 6 strokes tee to green. That being said, the reason I'm looking at it is I think last weekend was it's called a fluke and a variance in the numbers. Because if you take his overall last events, he's been great on the flag stick. He's not been great around the green, but I don't care. I'm looking at more of approach on putting and kind of tee to green. And so, FedEx St. Jude, he wasn't great, but in the Open, he gained 6 strokes. On the Scottish Open, he gained 8 strokes. The U.S. Open, he was great off the tee. He was great putting. I think he'll kind of bring it on home this time. And then another person I'm also looking at 7,900 is Corey Connors. Corey Connors, 61% and 70% greens and regulation. Great approach again. And last week, gained 3 strokes on approach. Off the tee, 3 strokes. Putting, not too great. He lost a stroke, but you know what? He's still ended up 10th in the BMW Championship. And this course is going to play similarly to the last course, as we're still looking at approach and somebody can putt on these undulating greens. And so I think he'll, again, do well. And at his price, 7,900, if you work in Tyrell Hatton, Corey Connors, you could probably get a few more lineups of those top tier guys if you wanted to. If you wanted to go a little bit cheaper into the basement, I'm taking a flyer on Nick Taylor. And here's why. 65% greens in regulation. He's doing okay. He did great. He did okay. The FedEx St. Jude, his approach, he gained 4 strokes at FedEx St. Jude. On the BMW Championship, not so much. He lost 2 strokes on approach. So that being said, approach with caution with Nick Taylor, but he's somebody I'm going to look at if I can figure out if I want to have Scotty Scheffler or Roy in there in my lineups. So that being said, I'll go ahead and post my players in here that I'm looking at. That's the next home. And then I'll put them all in here because I went through a lot. And I'll put Glover and Harmon. And then I'll put Connors and Hatton. And Glover, Harmon. It's really wonderful when don't do Lady Greens. And there's Kelly. And there she is. It'd be a lot easier for you here, Kelly, so I won't have to talk and type at the same time. I can't do that. And then also ours. All right. So, Kelly, we hope you're doing okay where you're at. And we hope to have you back at the sporadic episodes that we have after the season. So, that being said, I hope you guys have enjoyed our, Who's Your Caddy throughout the season, Kelly and I. And we hope to see you sporadically throughout that fall and the winter. And when the season picks back up, we will be here waiting for you with maybe a bottle of champagne. I don't know. We'll see. That being said, toodaloo, good luck. Hope you make some money. If you have any questions, hit us up on Twitter at Mr. Hallas and then at Kelly and Phoenix. Great. Wonderful. Goodbye.